Hello, Anzen. Ah, trying to get my camera a lot closer because it's a series of smaller drawings, but it looks like that's too close. It looks really blurry. I think the focus is shot when it gets that close. So I'm going to back it up just a little bit. It looks a little sharper than me. Right there. So it'll be a slight angle, but it looks like we can do this. So tonight, what I'm doing is if you're here and you haven't heard of my witch collection book that I crowdfunded on Zoop last fall, one of the reward tiers was remarks and signatures. So what we had to do is design a tip-in sheet, and I wanted one to look that had some of that texture I've added with my rubber stamps to a number of the witch drawings I did. And the production people didn't understand why I was sending them a very dirty file. So that gave us delays right through, so we missed Christmas. So the stuff didn't really get sent off to be printed until January. So I only got it like 2 weeks ago, maybe, and I was crunching on my Conan deadline. So there's no way I could touch them. So this is the long delayed tip-in sheets, which will have all these drawings on them. I penciled around 35, 36 today. I'm going to be doing around 65. I think they want at least 5 extra. I'm going to double check if there's an email discussion about it. So I'm going to be doing, because 60 were ordered in people supporting the campaign. And unfortunately, there's a cap on them. I know that when the book is coming back from the shipper, we're going to reopen just the base book for additional orders because we're overprinting significantly. But there's a limit on these because these are on the paper that's in the book, and they're going to be literally bound into the book when it's printed, or after it's printed and when it's bound. If that makes better sense. And so yeah, so. And then the people who just got a signature, they're going to get their signature in the little spirit bubble that I designed for that because my name's small, so I can write small in there. I initially thought they were just going to tip in that sheet in all of them, so I'd always have a spot to do signatures or sketches if someone just bought the base book. So now I have to take that into consideration. I'm meeting with the designer shortly, and we're going to get the finalized of the production so we can set everything at once to the printer. But anyway, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and ink as many of these tonight as I can in about an hour and a half, which is how long I usually go. Now, I did a few to test out the paper. It's a very, very nice paper for printing. And it really takes pencil remarkably well, but doesn't erase very well. So I'm gonna have to leave the pencil under the ink drawing for these because erasing damages the surface. And just to be on the safe side, I'm going to give each and every one of these a little spritz of fixative just to make sure that none of the handling causes the ink to smudge. Because the first one I was happy with after experimenting was the one I used for the thumbnail for tonight's YouTube. And you can see, even when I thought it was dry, there was a little bit of smudging that happened right there. I don't know if I move it closer, you'll actually see it. No, it's not getting any sharper. Usually this camera's better at capturing up close stuff. Might be too overloaded. So I hit with some fixative, and now it doesn't smudge at all. So it puts a weird little texture right in the drawing spot, but they must be able to handle that because this is what they've been doing, is tipping in hand-drawn remark sheets. So this is the first one I was happy with. I had about 3 or 4 failures to start off with, where the ink didn't lie down properly or anything. And so I'm going to be, instead of using my Oto ballpoints, I'm going to be just using the Rotring Tiki Graphics. I find that the ink is less smudgy and it damages the surface of the paper less. Whereas the ballpoint seems to dig in just a little bit, and it worries me some. So that's what I'm doing tonight. Again, I'm going to be doing around 60 to 70, 65 being minutes, so 65 to 70, and then setting them down to, I think they were going to want me to send them directly to the printer. I have to double check. So this should be fine enough for this. Yeah, to make this go a little faster, what I did is I drew about, and also because this paper can't take erasing, so I can't really fuss too much with the sketches. So I drew around 30 heads over the last few days. And just a basic like Loomis head construction. So I get all the mouth, nose, and jaw and hairline thing, and then I just run them uh, under this paper in the light box, so I can make sure that the basic. Then I just ad lib the hats and the hair and everything the way I always do. But I just want to make sure. So here, I just my line got lost control there, and even this marker that might be this one. I find that the super fine, like the 01 Rotring Ticky, the felt tip starts pushing in, so it's barely outside of the metal ferrule right now. Still full of ink. The ink in the felt is still really good, but it feels like there's a slight defect in the design where the ferrule's not tight enough to hold the marker in place. But I don't want to use a heavier marker for the fine details on the face. Hopefully the sound's good tonight. I forgot to ask. So I think I've had 3 streams interrupted because the sound came out really stupidly robotic. Oh, someone's dinging me. They'll have to wait. Yeah, the felt tips. This is one I used. I'm pretty sure you used this a few times on Conan pages, so that's why it's a little more worn. So after this is done, I don't anticipate the design of the book, like the actual last stuff, prepping for printing will take that much time at all. It's such a straightforward book. There's some things I've drawn I want to see about possibly including design-wise in the book. And if those work, that'll add like a couple of days. But otherwise, it's just a straight up put the pages in order, make sure they're all in the right space, add a few nice little design touches here and there, and the book's good to go. And it'll be printed. I don't know how long anything's taking to print these days. But you know what? I'm going to grab a different 01, a fresh, brand new 01.
I'm having trouble hearing. Can you say that again?
My Alexa's eavesdropping. If you look,
from CherokeeObserver.org.
Alexa, stop. So this is the older 01, and if you can see them, let me push down here. So this is the brand new one. It's sticking about almost a millimeter, and it's this one here. It's slowly slid all the way back in, so it's essentially garbage. unless I hold it vertically. So I can actually see it digging in. It's created some ridges in the paper, because the paper is very delicate. So I'm going to do a little bit more of this. Some shadow under the neck. I don't usually do a lot of shadows with my witch drawings. But sometimes you just got it because it works. I also, it's like, if some people ask me, how did you learn how to draw fishnet stockings? I went, I'm not really drawing fishnet stockings here. I'm approximating what they do. I'm creating a graphic interpretation of them. Fishnet stockings are a lot more detailed. I kind of really, um, I hit on a patterning and a simulated curve around the surface for most of the larger areas. And that works. But in reality, this is not actually. At one point, got a bunch of photo reference, and I realized I was so off on so many of them that I better not start drawing them correctly, because then the jig would be up. Well, no, I don't know if you can say that. That's something I grew up saying. The scam's exposed. So I'm going to do is I can use a slightly thicker marker, so this one will last longer. I'd probably use a 2. Yeah, here we go. So it's just a little bit thicker. They have the same problem with going in, but they just don't do it as fast in terms of the nib shrinking in. So I put a little bit of black around the outside of this area so I can be a little sloppier with the brush when I bring the brush in. And it looks like it's going to be a permanent thing. I'm going to have to do 2 coats of brush work on this, because the ink isn't as opaque as I'd like it to be. Got some implied light on that edge. I'll go darker right away. Oh, here we go. Hey, Paul. Spider-Man doubled down. Oh, Spider-Man. It was a lesson to learn how to do Spider-Man's costume too. I took so much of it for granted. And I actually sat down and looked at what Ditko did, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a lot smarter than I thought it was. That can be seen as a bit of a crit of Ditko, but it was like, it was an underestimation of it, because I've never been a huge fan of Ditko's drawing. His design work and storytelling, yes, but his drawing itself never really did. I'm from a completely different approach to drawing, so hopefully people understand why. But the sense of design, I wouldn't say his ability to design characters is as broad as Kirby's, because I think Kirby was able to design horror and science fiction and superheroes equally well. Ditko is really good at just creepy stuff. And Spider-Man, like it or not, he's creepy stuff. So let me pull that brush out. doing these, I gotta tell you, if you backed Mark Nelson's Thunder Hunters from Zoop, and you saw his remarks, oh my God, it looks like he spent days on each one. He created this insanely elaborate wall, and he has all these weird alien creatures that only he draws, and he draws so well. And they're like on every single one of them. It's just amazing. And here I am. I'm doing. It's a little crass. I mean, I could go stupidly elaborate, but I mean, these witches are what brought people here. So I'm going to give them witches. That just seems to be the smart and considerate thing to do. If I do a monster book, there's going to be monsters everywhere, but I'll probably end up charging a little bit more for marks at that point. Um, after this week, guess I should talk about next week. So I'm hoping to be done all these this week. I'm also doing corrections and revisions to the Conan pages because I think everyone knew how much I rushed at the back end there, and turns out there was a later drop dead deadline. They extended me. Said, you know what, bring the pages up to the level we hired you for those last few pages. I'm like, thank you. And by the way, this panel here, Conan's head's too big. This panel here, the action's too dull, and they're absolutely right. Weird thing is they didn't want to slow me down because they knew I was running behind initially. So they let me just go forward with pages, thinking they'd give me the corrections at the end, which is what they did, and it's great. I'm happy for the opportunity to make the work just to look better. Because I hate to look at this book in like 6 months, and it's a bucket list book for me. Look at it in like 6 months and go, damn it. And it's all my own fault. I don't know if I mentioned this on stream. I think Jim and I started this in September, where we had to lay out. And normally, and this is, I should probably do it like a whole stream where I'll talk about tips to be a better professional. And one of the primary tips is once you learn something that works, keep doing it. And one of the things I learned for myself is, especially books with longer deadlines, is never take that deadline for granted. And I did it for the Conan book. No excuses. It's yeah, and that's the signature. So drawing signature. So that's 2. So I'm going to pile it up here in the dry one, and then I'll fix it after the stream. But normally what I would have done is, and this is what I used to do with like long thing, I would take my calendar and say, okay, the deadline's mid-February. And here we are in September, knowing full well that October was going to be eaten alive by Coven and the witches. What I would have done is I said, okay, so I got September, November, December, January. So that's 4 months, with half a month in February. But I would have divided the 48 pages by 4 months, so 12 pages a month, and just made sure I hit those 12 pages a month. Instead, what I did is I went, oh, I got, what, as long as I start in January, seriously, and I got around, 25, 26 pages. And at some point I forgot it was a 48-page story. For some reason I was like thinking it was 44. And again, long deadlines, lots of time to forget stuff. And so I hit January, and then a whole bunch of life stuff happened and ate up my January. So what I thought would have been, doable, life got in the way, screwed me up, made me rush it like crazy. And even then I was rushing like crazy and still not capable of doing the type of work I'm proud of. And had I did my calendar plan, I would have been on page 36 at the start of January with only 12 pages left to do. So even with what happened to me in January, I would only had 12 pages to do instead of what turned out to be 26 through January. So I just put myself terribly behind. So it's things like that. I think I should possibly, if there's interest, do like make a checklist of talking points, maybe when I'm doing a commission or something else, and just talk about different ways to prioritize your time. Give yourself reminders so you know when you're getting behind on a project. And because whenever I screw up like this, It's not just me. It's my fault. But it's like then the writer's waiting for pages. Then the editor and the letterer are waiting for pages. And everyone has to accommodate my stupidity for not tracking my work effort properly. So, and it's a weird thing. It's like I had it solved career-wise like years ago. But then I have no idea why I think it's an excuse. It's not a good excuse, but I think it's what happened. With Coven coming up, I was so focused on making sure I could do all of Coven. I kind of took this Conan project for granted while I was just assuming I'd catch up in no great with no great effort, and I didn't obviously. I give her a little dimple in that chin. Feels like a toe thing to do. Uh, So yeah, it's every no matter how long you're at it, the minute you forget the things that make it easier for you to do your work is the minute things start getting screwed up for you. Okay, no, that works. Hair coming in here. It's gonna be black. That's gonna be in shadow. Shadow there. Let that be glistening. And that'll be black. That'll be black. That'll be black. Just planning out where I'm spotting the blacks here. It seems like in terms of movies and entertainment, I'm just because this thought occurred to me earlier today. We're in a bit of what I would call the doldrums. We're not getting universally bad movies, but we're not getting a lot of really good movies propagating. It feels like there's that period of we're in that period of year where they dump all the bad horror movies and mediocre thrillers and low budget stuff. It's flooded into the market now when no one's going. And these are the movies, unlike Discovery, he seems to like um, canceling movies for the tax write-off, which I saw a little video on. It's like, and this is response to the Coyote movie where they just canceled it for the tax write-off. He says, if you get a tax write-off for it and you're not going to make a profit on the movie, you should immediately, if you take that tax write-off, so we're paying for it essentially because they now no longer have to pay their fair share of taxes for their property. It should be released to the public domain. So I mean, it's like the government gets to release Wile E. Coyote movie, Batgirl movie to the public domain, perhaps even generate a movie of it. It would become a government show film. I think that'd be brilliant. It would force a lot of these corporate types who are like living their lives consequence free to actually have to think a little harder before screwing over creatives like they did with Batgirl and Coyote and apparently other movies that are upcoming. It's also kind of weird when you think about it. It's like I tried watching Aquaman. I love Jason Momoa. I think he's incredibly entertaining. He's got so much charisma on screen. I even watched this weird little excuse me, weird little Nemo movie he did. And I didn't even know it was a Nemo movie till I got into it because it played so fast and loose with uh, like Little Nemo in Slumberland. I should be more careful about that because a lot of people might have been thinking about the fish movie. Um, so it's a weird update on Little Nemo in Slumberland. Um, and I can't say it was good. It had some nice moments, and Momoa was really good in it. Um, but I mean, it was watchable because of him. Um, and Aquaman, I couldn't finish it. I got maybe 20 minutes in and I went, this just feels dumb. It feels like a movie that no one really wanted to make, but they were obligated to. Um, I like Patrick Wilson too. He is, I think, a terribly underrated actor. He had this really great movie years ago where he's like a limo driver and everything's going to hell around him, and he just ends up rolling with this nightmarish story. And he was good in it. He was really, really good in it. I'm going to turn this upside down. So I'm very carefully not touching any of the ink here. You can see if there's some shine going on here. Let me see if I can get some of the shine. So even though the ink's been on there long enough on Bristol, it would be bone dry or close to it. It's still wet on here. It's a coated stock. So I'm avoiding touching it as much as possible. You know what? This 2 is doing so much better than the 1 in terms of like just keeping that ink out. I think I'm gonna just try and work with the 2 for the next little bit. And that's another one. And let me sign this. I think everyone, I must have talked about before that my signature is loosely based on one of Frazetta's. I came up with, I did a piece for a Trans-Metropolitan tribute book. And it was a last minute edition because I didn't even know the book was happening. People were surprised I didn't know. So I managed to sneak in under wire, and I did a tribute to the one issue where they did the historical areas where people get their memories altered so they can work in these historically accurate zones, like ancient Britain, Rome, ancient China, all that place. You go in there, and it's like everyone would think and talk because their brains were rewired to be these reenactors. And so I did a tribute to Frank Frazetta's Seven Romans cover, which I believe was the first cover for Epic Illustrated. And 3 of the Romans are replaced with Spider Jerusalem and 2 of his filthy assistants. But it was such a heavy Frazetta. I mean, even when I was coloring it, I used Frazetta's palette from that Seven Romans piece. And yeah, it's done. And because of that, I decided I have to do a tribute and a signature. So I looked through all the signatures, and I harvested letter forms that were close to the letters I use in my name. And so I refer to it as my Peseta signature, which is really cheesy, I know, but you know, I'm a big fan. I just got that. Oh my God, that Taschen book I got. If you're a Frazetta head, you've seen that Taschen put out this massive. It's so massive, I'm not going to bring it out here. It's too big to try and get on camera when I'm already focusing on this small an area. Maybe next week if people really want to see it. It is huge. I think it's like 12 by 16. It's really huge. It's almost as big as regular art paper. So, and it looks like they reshot or color corrected a lot of the paintings from older from that have been presented. The colors are just so much better in this edition. So they really, really, really put the effort into this as an art book, even though the design feels more like one of their pop culture books. Because Taschen generally does a lot of art and fine art and culture books, and they seem to approach them with a different design imperative. So the design elements in the Taschen book for Frazetta feel a little bit more like when they're paying tribute to like a pop culture magazine or entertainment aspect. as opposed to when they do their like Klimt or Scheele books, which have a lot more, I guess, a lot more studied, reserved design approach. But yeah, if you're a Frazetta fan and you really want to see these paintings reproduced as well as they've ever been reproduced, this is the book for you. I've taken to putting on. I have these half gloves for working on my drawing tablet when I'm coloring for a long time. So I don't, because I saw someone using the white cotton gloves to flip through it, and I don't have any of those on hand. And I was just like, oh damn. So I use those. So I'm turning pages with my pinky because it's covered in fabric and it won't damage the book. Oh, there's a lot of chat. Oh my god. You know what? I appreciate Ditko. I don't love him. It took me a long time to really develop an affection for 60s era Kirby. I love his earlier work, like the work he was doing at, I can't remember the studio, but before he came back to Marvel, he was doing some, and even honestly, I think his early Thor work had some incredible drawing in it, just incredible. But I've been much more like the guys that influenced me, Toth, Wrightson, almost like opposite ends of a spectrum right there. Pen and ink illustrators, all that stuff. That just leads in. So yeah. I think there's a certain thing when you're young, you like what you like, and you do so uncritically. And it's hard to separate. Well, I like it, so it's good, versus I like it and it's not good. Where I'm a lot easier there. It's like I can appreciate that I can enjoy something that's not good now, and know it's not good. Whereas before, when I was young, everything I liked was automatically good, and that's not a good way to go through life. You got to develop some critical skills. All right, I'm going to spot the black, so it's going to be solid black all the way through here, coming down through the hair. It's going to be there we go. That feels a little bit better. Yeah, there's one sequence. I'm replying to Paul here. There's one sequence I thought it was going to work. Conan gets beaten in battle, and it's changing, so I can talk about it, but I'm not going to show it. Beaten in battle. So I set up kind of like a series of small panels in the action leading up to him getting knocked out, and kind of like partially awaking and then blacking out again. And so it became like I was using rubber stamps to kind of suggest he's graying out as opposed to blacking out. And by the end of the sequence, where it's like he sees something, so there's a panel where it's drawn, and then it ticks to the gray, and then something else comes in, and it just didn't work. I was so convinced it worked, and as soon as your editor and your writer go, I don't know what you're doing there. So they kind of asked me to redo that page, which I'm gladly going to do. As soon as you find some, when you get that feedback, it's not working, you got to get rid of it. There's no saving it unless you really believe in it in spite of it. But what that means is there's a page just in front of it, and I drew Conan's head too big on that page, and so they wanted it tweaked a bit. But what that did is I went, okay, so in the next page, I'm losing that weird kind of like, tick tock, dark image and everything. So I'm going to be more. So the lead up with all the tiny panels on the previous page became pointless. That whole exercise in using that layout didn't work. So what it gives me the opportunity is I'm taking that page where the only change I had to do was like two Conan heads really. So what I'm doing is I took I literally opened the page in Photoshop, and maybe I'll do a post-op when the book's out. Maybe I'll do a stream where I'll just talk about all the pages that I didn't share with you guys and talk about the decision making I was going through. If you guys are interested in that, then I'll do it. It won't be as much a drawing as much as a talking through and where I'm making decisions. But I'm now freed up from that because that TikTok on the next page is gone. This need to set up the rhythm so the reader can follow that rhythm on the previous page is gone, which means I can now do essentially an incredibly far more dynamic layout on the previous page. And then, and doesn't have to tie tightly to the next page. It's just, it means I'm redoing 2 pages instead of 1 because the client only wants 1 page done on that sequence, but it's going to make both pages better. And it's so rare to get opportunities to fix things like that. So I really appreciate Titan Heroic. They really, I mean, it's not just Jim who loves Conan. They all truly, deeply love Conan. And they don't want anyone to do less than their best work on it. And I endorse that 110%. Oh yeah, weirdly enough, I want to see it, but I know I need that 3 hours of absolute focus, and that has not been available for a while. Yeah, Dune 2. Oh, is it coming that soon? Oh my God, I'm hoping they do a day-long showing somewhere where you can go show up around noon, watch the 3-hour initial Dune, take a nice half-hour matinee, eat something. Hopefully, like it's a theater with a restaurant, and come back and then watch Dune 2. So you just get to spend a whole day with Villeneuve's Dune. Especially with the word that he's going to do one more. He's going to do Dune Messiah. Is that the third one, or is that Children of Dune? I think Messiah is the third, then it's Children. Some more here. 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, I should probably offer frequent supporter points or something. Although then I'd have to figure out how to get it to my Patreon supporters too, because I think I've talked about my Patreon. It's almost exclusively $1 a month. This month, I think at the beginning of this month, because a lot of people asked about it, and the person who actually brought it up with me wasn't able to get in. He just found out about it, and he's like, "Damn, I missed it." I opened up a more expensive tier, but the entire reason for that is so people could actually pay as you go for an 11/17 commission at the end of the year. And so it's no longer a pure $1 a month Patreon, but I'm always trying to find better things to support my Patreon, reciprocate with my Patreon supporters. I think that's incredibly important because I mean, they're there believing in me month after month. That's just amazing. That's another one. Look at that. There we go. That one turned out all right. I would love to be able to erase that, but I do not want to risk doing anything bad to the paper. The gray is subtle enough that oh, yeah, down here. The gray is subtle enough on her chin that's not showing up. That's 3 tonight so far. How are we doing time wise? Oh, we're only 40 minutes. You know what? I should be able to do at least 9 tonight then, I think. All right, let's look at chat here again. I love those witches too. Yeah, I'd love. Yeah, I don't think I'll talk about it. I'm sure there'll be stuff by the time the book comes out. I'll be like, oh God, I can't believe I let that one go through. Do Messiah, yeah. Then Children, good. God Emperor, yeah. So Villeneuve only wants to do 3, and honestly, I think it was God Emperor. When I finished it, I kind of said, okay, I'm done. And there was like 2 other books, and I tried reading the next one, and I just couldn't. I felt that Frank Hebert had reached the limit of my interest in this world he created. I know he's got a deeper fan base than that, but I find that I need new more. I mean, for example, I think Terry Pratchett is probably the best serial novelist I've ever read. Like I've read a lot of like serial novels, like Louis L'Amour westerns when I went through a western phase. Um, a lot of action adventure series, um, and there's some really really good ones. But even after about I think 12, 13 Discworld books, I had to tap out. So I think it's a shortcoming on my part. Um, I think honestly, you know what? I'm going to complain about something. I try to be positive, but I watched The Watch, which was a weird cyber swords and sorcery. Like it kind of gave a weird cyberpunk design bit to the fantasy setting in Ankh-Morpork. Is Ankh-Morpork? God, I might be confusing him with Fritz Leiber. Um, and I loved the lead actor. He was so good as the crazy, always dying guy in Game of Thrones. I did a drawing of him, and I was really happy with it. I might still have it. I should check my Cadence Art stuff. I should probably do a Game of Thrones week coming up soon because it's Witches up now on the Big Cartel site, and I got to figure out like what I'm going to do Friday. So that might be good, but I think I want to do the painting for the cover for the Displaced. I just did a signing for that with Ed Brisson at a comic shop here in Ontario called Worlds Collide yesterday. It was a great time, great signing. People in Oshawa love it when you destroy their city. It's a great book too. If you get a chance, and you're at a comic shop, the first issue just came out. It's sold out at the distributor level, which means that shops may also be selling out, but they're rushing to a second printing because it sold out so quickly. So I think it's Boom really really believes in this one, so they're going to give it some extra time, give it an extra push. And why am I going for this? Oh yeah. So instead of Game of Thrones this week, I'll probably do just paintings. They'll be a lot more expensive than the pen and ink work, so I'm not expecting them to sell because the economy the way it is. But I'd much rather be disappointed now with none of them going than disappointed 6 months from now when things are getting better economically. People just don't like my paintings. And that was a real heretic chapter. Us were fine. Felched it. Ooh, ouch. Sean Bean? Was he in The Watch? No. He's got this amazing voice. I think he actually does a lot of voice work, like reading novels and stuff, because his voice is so good. He was the guy with the flaming sword in Game of Thrones. Sir. Damn it. I wonder, you know what? Let me just take a quick look in the art pile here. Where is all that stuff anyway? You know what? No, I don't want. I want to get as many books done as possible. Sean Bean's fun to draw. I've drawn him for a few fans. I did one Game of Thrones piece for him. I think that sold. I'll have to double check. And he dies so well in film. He's always dying really well. I remember there's this one weird science fiction movie he was in with Christian Bale, and it was a riff on Fahrenheit 451 and kind of like a weird martial arts movie. It had something in it called gun kata. I mean, it was super entertaining, but really, really dumb in the best possible way. And there's a scene in there where Sean Bean gets revealed that he violated his code as a book burning cop, and he gets caught reading a book of poetry, and he knows he's about to be executed. And he does this kind of weird little peekaboo thing from behind the book in slow motion, and I'm like, "What the hell are they doing?" Oh, what is it called? Oh my god! When I focus on the drawing, it's just nuts. I think it's issue 11. So I think 10's in Diamond right now, and they start soliciting the next month. I think the next catalog comes out on the 28th. So that would be next week, I think. Is February coming going through that fast? Yeah, today's the 18th. Yeah, so next Wednesday, the new Diamond catalog comes out, and I'll be able to share the Conan cover. Um, and that'll probably go up on my big cartel site that week. Equilibrium. Oh my God, yeah, because of the drug they kept forcing everyone to take. Oh my God, yeah. And he had that stupid, weird relationship with his daughter who knew he wasn't taking the drug. And you weren't entirely, it was her daughter or her son? And you knew there was they kind of implied that she was going to expose him. And it turns out she wasn't taking the drug either or something. And it was kind of like, what the hell? And it had like, it just had the most bizarre fight scene ending. And it was just like, okay, all right. And I can't forget. It had this great scene where he's fighting people. Christian Bale's character is fighting people in a completely pitch black room, but because he's so good at gun kata in terms of predicting where his targets are going to go, even when he can't see them, that he shoots all these people in the dark, and the scene is completely lit by the muzzle flare. So like he kills someone, and you see the bullet hit because the muzzle flare illuminates everything for a second. Then it goes black again. He shoots someone else, and you see someone else get hit. I mean, it had some brilliant visual gags in the narrative, but it was kind of like the weird phase of Christian Bale's career where he was in these really high concept, moderate budget movies that were really enjoyable, but just you couldn't really argue they were good. Kind of like that Reign of Fire movie he was in with Gerard Butler. Oh, and if you ever get to see Reign of Fire, keep an eye open for all the people like you go, oh, I know that guy. I know that guy. So many actors who got bigger after. Woody Harrelson's in it too, of course. And he's no, it's not Woody Harrelson. It's Matthew McConaughey. And he's bald as Woody Harrelson is. He's completely crazy, and he's in the best possible way. I love that movie. I think I might watch it while I'm working in the studio after tonight's stream. I'm just riffing on different tangents tonight, aren't I? If anyone has any questions to focus me a bit. Yeah, it was definitely a Matrix ripoff. And it's yes, exactly. There are good bad movies that are just designed for you to enjoy watching them, regardless of any possible redeeming qualities. It just when I love it when movies have a budget decent enough for you not to be distracted by shoddy things. Like the budget just has to be good enough for you to go, okay, they made enough of an effort for me to watch everything here. So that the Equilibrium certainly finds that niche. And then it just makes bonkers decisions from the narrative storytelling point of view. And you kind of go, why did they do that? And Reign of Fire, Equilibrium, so many good, bad movies like that. I kind of want to say, for a while, I thought in my mind that, oh God, tonight's the night where I'm just not going to remember anything. The guy who directed all those really bad DC movies, Snyder. He did this weird movie with this woman going to a mental health institution. She's committed there, and she keeps having these fantasies whenever she starts dancing, and everyone kind of engages in them. And it's really bizarro stuff. And Scott Glenn's in it. And I was like, oh yeah, no, it's a good bad movie. And then I think on the third time I watched it, I kind of went, no, it's a bad movie with just some good sequences. Like there's a sequence in it where they're flying in a B-52 bomber while a war between orcs and Knights is happening just below them, and they start getting chased by a dragon. And I mean, it's just so bonkers visually. You kind of go, "Oh my god!" Then they right after that, everything really falls apart. The World War II sequence is okay. Then they have this rail sequence that doesn't make sense, where they're fighting robots, and it just, it just lost me. And then the ending itself was kind of like they, he did something to try and make you. He tried to make it art instead of like just doubling down on how stupid over the top it was. Like if you're gonna do a big dumb movie, own it. Make it the big dumb movie. I think that's really important. Do a little crosshair. I think I want to raise that brim a bit too. There we go. So these don't take that long. I just have to be careful with them because of the ink. So I've already finished. That's 4 tonight. Yeah, I'll try and do another 4 before I go offline. So that gives you an idea. If you have to bail, feel free. But it's like Sucker Punch. Yes, it was Sucker Punch. I even have like an art book of Sucker Punch here, and because there's some brilliant design work in it, but it's when I realized that Snyder needs an A-list writer to actually get a good script good film out of him, and he can't be in control. And now he's in complete control. He's handpicking writers who just feed him back the story stuff he wants right now. Like I actually made it all the way through that horrible Netflix science fiction Star Wars ripoff movie thing he did, and it's bad. I initially just started watching a little bit, turned it off, and walked away. And then I came back and I said, you know what? I just want sound. I'm so focused on something else while I was drawing at the time. I just want sound. So I put it on and I'm like, oh my God. It's full of like the weird type of stuff that only someone who's completely in love with the smell of his own farts would make. And I know people who argue with me like crazy about his Superman movie, saying, oh, Superman needed a movie like that. And I'm like, well, no, not Superman. Then there were some interviews with people who worked on it. And it's like his favorite film is one of my favorite films, John Boorman's Excalibur. It's one of my all-time favorite films. And instead of like just enjoying it for what it is, Snyder had decided he was going to do a riff on Excalibur with the DC Universe characters. And Superman was King Arthur and Batman was Lancelot. And so Superman was going to kill Batman after he finds out that Batman cheated or cuckolded him with Lois. And I'm like, what? And apparently a lot of DC executives were like, okay, well, you can keep talking. We'll let you do it if you make, billions of dollars, which he didn't, thankfully. But I mean, that's on them for hiring him in the first place. He had no business doing superheroes. The best thing about his Watchmen movie is the opening sequence. Everything else showed just how little he understood the book. And I think it made money anyway, which is kind of sad. I gotta tell you, the hardest thing when it's like every time I start getting in a role about how much I dislike Snyder's approach to superheroes, I've had so many people who met him who just love him because he's like an incredibly supportive, really, truly endearing guy to work with. And it makes me feel bad that, he's so bad at so many of the jobs he's been given. And apparently the thing is, he doesn't believe these things. He can't see where the shortcomings are at all. So, you got to let him be him. Let me raise this jaw up a bit more there and bring this down there. There we go. A little slightly more square there. There we go. And you know, I'm going to do that. There we go. I think that smile works. I'd probably get sued. You know who wrote his Dawn of the Dead remake? James Gunn. And Snyder was so new to making features that the producers were siding more with James Gunn in a lot of the decisions. That's why the movie coheres. I mean, I watched his just to see if zombies would be what would wake up his ability to do something good. I watched his zombie movie on Netflix. And nope. I mean, it was full of like insane logical fallacies all the way through it. And just honestly bad writing. I mean, there's when they're flying from the main building they had to break into in a helicopter. And somehow the zombie king traveled by elevator to the bottom building, mounted a house, and managed to get to the other building. How he knew they were going to the other building, who knew? I mean, magic zombie thoughts. He is the zombie king after all, so he must magically knew. Magically delicious where those brains were going. And I'm like, I'm watching this going, how the hell did he? I mean, like as soon as the helicopter takes off, it's going like 100 miles an hour. The guy would still be waiting at the top of a high rise. The guy would still be waiting because they had a fight at the top of the high rise. They escaped the helicopter. He'd probably still be waiting for the elevator to get to that floor by the time the helicopter landed the other place, let alone him getting the elevator, going all the way down, getting on a horse, and then getting there. A horse that somehow is going to travel faster than a helicopter. Oh my God, I should shut up. Let's talk about something good. I watched this movie called Monolith. It just came out. I can't remember what streaming platform it's on. And it's not bad. It's not great. But for low budget indie out on the fringe area horror science fiction films, it's not bad. It's certainly watchable. I don't think it bears a second watch, which is when I think something's good, I'll watch it again because I want to take apart like how they made it good. That's just how my brain works. It's got a nice clever twist in it. It's got a bit of a mystery in it. It's a slow burn, which I find generally works for this type of cerebral science fiction horror. And the acting's really good, even though you're really only dealing with one actress through almost the entirety of the movie. A lot of voice work. She gets on the phone a lot. It's just a smart little, pretty good movie. And it's not good, bad. It's just good, but not great. We're coming up with our movie. These are going to be the Sunday Night Live drawing movie reviews. It can be good. It can be great. It can be, all right. It's pretty good. It can be likes the smell of his own farts. Good. Or bad. Yeah, we should make that a thing. We'll do t-shirts and everything. Well, the blacks look pretty opaque here. I don't think I have to do a full coat of everything. I kind of like liberal with the application of the brush here. All right, here we go. That's 5. It's the 1 again. Here's the 2. Yeah. I rewatched it recently, the Dawn of the Dead remake. The cast was remarkably good. So many people have gone on, like they've just kept working since. Um, I think my favorite visual sequence is when they're kind of pinned in place by the zombies when they're doing their final escape, and he throws out the fuel tank and detonates it, and to do that overshot of all the zombies being blown away. I just thought that was a really well set up and executed shot. Um, I mean, there's some really good bits in it. Um, yeah, there's bits in that movie that still hold up. But I think so much of the credit has to go to James Gunn, because most of that stuff couldn't have happened if Gunn didn't actually see it and piece it together in a way that worked in the movie. Why did I draw an arm here? I think I drew an arm in another one. Um, just to get those hands in there so I can draw some more fishnet. Now I'm thinking, God, why am I drawing fishnet for these little remarks? I'll figure it out. Yeah, I mean, if the director is a good writer, I mean, if it turned out that Snyder was like a really solid writer as well, which he isn't, his changes wouldn't have mattered. Or his, I mean, it would have borne out with his other movies that he was a good writer. As it is, he works a lot with David Goyer, who I'm not a big fan of. I know he's worked on some good movies, like he's worked on the Chris Nolan Batman movies. Um, but I think he was used more as a nerd info resource because on his own, he's really written some really terrible movies, to my mind, anyway. Um, but yeah, David Goyer is to my he wrote this. He had a movie with Gary Oldman in the lead because he worked on Batman. It was a horror movie about a woman about to give birth to a demon baby, if I remember correctly. And it was so god awful. I think Goyer directed it too. And it was so just terrible. And it's like I'm going, wow, I really, really hope Gary needed that paycheck because it didn't really, it just got him shouting a lot and not doing anything good as an actor, which, if you know how Hollywood works, just getting to work sometimes is the whole point. Getting a movie started so you can earn your money. All right, so we have the cutoff for the glove, for the thumb. Yeah. Oh my god. I mean, I loved Blade. I loved the first one. I thought the director nailed it in the first one. Then he went on to do that League of Extraordinary Gentlemen nonsense, and then quit because his experience in that was so nightmarish. I understand that. Um, And then, that Blade 3, which, Goyer managed to piss off um, Wesley Snipes. Wow, I actually got that in my own head. Wesley Snipes so bad that there was like he wasn't allowed to talk to Snipes. Snipes just hated him because he was like, "Why are you bringing all these white people to star in my movie?" Which was perfectly fair. Because even when Guillermo, like all the supporting cast that Guillermo added, in terms of like the vampires and everything, all of them were designed to make Wesley Snipes look better as Blade. Daryl Dixon showed up. Turns out he's a vampire stooge. Chris Christopherson comes back, but his role is always a subordinate to Blade, so that worked. And then like all the bad guy Ron Perlman is a bad guy vampire. Love it. I think there's that science fiction movie where the cat evolves into a humanoid. They got the actor who plays the humanoid cat in. It's a comedy series on in Britain, and he's playing a vampire. And I go, oh my god, he got him in there. So I mean, it's just so. I mean, if I was Wesley Snipes, I would have been perfectly fine with Guillermo coming and doing that because everything made him look better. In fact, Guillermo made Blade look better in some of the sequences than he was able to look in the first movie, which I think is again criminally underrated. Um, but yeah, when Goyer came in, and it was Patton Oswalt, and who talks about this in the most hilarious way because apparently in his anger and frustration, Wesley Snipes spent most of the movie completely baked in his trailer, and he would communicate with the director by notes. And if that doesn't tell you the director has no control over a set, I mean, that's absurd. I'm surprised the producers didn't remove him because it's like all the really cool scenes were like given to well, they had cool death scenes for the other white sidekicks. Did they call them the Midnight Suns? I know they took a Marvel comic line name and they put that in there. And then they had the blind girl they added. She had a death scene. And it's like it was basically, and then all the heroic shit was really, um, it's just bad, man. I hope they reference it in the Deadpool movie because I think since Marvel owns Blade again, they can if they're doing the multiverse thing, they can actually reference Blade too because he was in Blade 3. Um, that would be funny to me, especially if you got Wesley Snipes in that cameo. I think if I remember correctly, Wesley Snipes did a cameo in What We Do in the Shadows. Yeah, Ryan. It was oh my god. Um, they made up a character for Ryan to play that goofball because I don't think Hannibal King was a goofball in the comics. Not that my memory works on that. But I mean, in the last Deadpool, he gets the riff on his Green Lantern thing. So I hope like hell in the first official Marvel Deadpool movie, he gets the riff on his deservedly forgotten Deadpool character, Blade character. Okay, use some brush on this and this one. Sign it, and I'll be done. Hey, Ted, I think I'm slowing down a bit, or I'm just doing harder witches. Kind of thinking I'd be on my 6th or so by now. I think this is just not even my 7th by now. I think this is just my 6th. We gotta do a little more fishnet here. I almost forgot. Subtle. And a crosshatch on the shoulder thing here too. That's a little smaller. There you go. A little signature. Good in the camera. Good. All right, there's another one done. And another one done. And another one bites the dust. Hey, we're gonna get you too. Another one bites the dust. Yeah, it was. Oh my god, I love what we do in the shadows. I know they're going to end it at some point soon. I know Taika Waititi is getting a little tired with how much work he's committed to. I don't know if it'll work without him involved because I mean he created it. But it's just so good. That Snipes thing. They tried to get Tom Cruise and Brad Pitt, and apparently the word wasn't. Tom's handlers just assumed he wouldn't want to do it, because word got back that Tom was game, but they have to find like the right time. Actually, I'm not sure if they actually asked Brad, because I think Brad would do it. Brad's doing all sorts of weird shit just because it's fun, like his freaking Deadpool cameo. I remember I was telling a friend of mine, I love that Brad Pitt was in it. And she goes, no, he wasn't. I went, yeah, he was. She said, no, he wasn't. I watched that movie like 3 times. He wasn't. I said, you know, the invisible guy? She goes, well, that's not Brad Pitt. I said, yeah, when he's electrocuted, you get to see him. And I think was it my copy or their copy? Immediately got put on, watched, jumped to the scene where that happened, and just like, oh my God, I never noticed that before. And she goes, I think I was always laughing too hard to actually look at it, which is fair. I think it's fair. I got a friend who's convinced that what we do in the shadows has to end soon, because with Guillermo becoming a vampire, and as soon as everyone else has to recognize that he's a vampire, stop treating him like garbage, he'll inevitably make them more mature as vampires and more human, because he's not turning into a monster like they are as he becomes a vampire. He's still Guillermo, which is different. And so he says, once that happens, where are you going to go with the entire family? They're going to stop feeding on people that way. I think the only vampire who doesn't necessarily kill his victims is the energy vampire. Blanking on his name, because I always blank on names. It's what come to Richard's stream and watch him forget stuff. Colin, I want to say Colin Mockery, but that's a Canadian comedian. And but yeah, so it's like I can see a season, maybe 2 of Guillermo adapting to be a vampire and essentially making the rest of the family nicer vampires. Because honestly, they're, apart from occasionally killing people, they're generally nice people. I mean, like, their neighbor is still alive. If they're evil, that neighbor would have died. They want that companionship and friendship. The only and really, I think the only people they kill most frequently are other monsters. So vampires and the like. So I love that show for that. Colin Robinson. Yes. I find the older I get, the more I have to be engaged in thinking about what I'm talking about for me to remember everything seamlessly. So if we were just talking about what we do in the shadows instead of like my drawing here, the names would come to me. I wouldn't have like I just did a video stream talking about Ted Lasso, um, and it was really really fun, and I got to remember everything I wanted to talk about. I think for the most part, and but here I am drawing away, and it's like I can't remember Colin Robinson's last name. So my memory's always been spotty. I call it a interest-driven memory. If I'm really interested in what it is, I'll remember it. Otherwise, it means you suck at math. That's about it. I, I'm wondering if I watched all of season 5. Now I'm wondering if I just kind of like I've done this a few times. I'm loving a show. Life gets in the way. I stop watching for a bit, and then I forget that there was like I quit mid-season. I got to go watch the rest of the episodes. So I think everyone where I left off, everyone knew. Finally, everyone knew he was a vampire, and and everyone kind of sort of rolled with it. I think. Gotta do me some scribbling here in the hat, and then sign it, and then this one's done. Okay, I'll go check that out this week. Okay, that was 7. All right, okay, maybe I'm not as far behind as I thought I was. I should double check that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, it's 7. All right. Starting to worry that maybe I was like getting slower already. How are we doing? All right, yeah. So this will be the last one tonight because that'll put us close to an hour and a half. And I know all of you, you have lives to live, and on some people need to go to bed for work. I'm gonna try and do 3 or 4 of these every morning this week at least, and then a couple more as cool downs at the end of the night. I might even film a couple just to put on the channel as like a mini video or something, mini video, short YouTube short. Yeah, I haven't done one of those. Apparently, you should, or maybe do a TikTok and start my TikTok campaign with drawing these witch heads because there's no boobs. Well, there's a nipple or two. I think I can draw if I can get away with it. Although I'm a little freaked out by YouTube. Their standards are. I think I told all you guys for flipping that watercolor sketchbook that had some nude watercolors in it. It got flagged as adult. So yeah, I'm not doing that again. think this is the same base head because the angle is the same, but I had the hand in it the last time. I took the time and drew that hand with it. It looks familiar to me. I'm gonna put that there, like that. I think this is going to be all solid black, so I might give a rim light to that. Put her sleeve up a little higher. Here we go. Get a little bit of fishnet in there. Yeah, now that all the cramming all the Conans in to just focus on that. I do want to start. I think I'm gonna. I'll let you guys. You can put it down in the comments in the video. Not certainly a chat. I have to watch the whole video for the chat again. If you had something you wanted me to cover or something specifically to draw, as just for the witch anthology, Conan really put me behind on that, so I got to start getting caught up there. So I laid out that one page, but I've laid out like 6 pages of the first story. I should have been done the first story by now. But yeah, if you have something that, yeah, I'd really like to see you draw this or talk about drawing this or that type of stuff. I'm totally open for that. I think that would be fun. There's a weird kind of way that the paper still absorbs the ink. Kind of like it just you just see it kind of like float on the surface for half a second, and then it just disappears as it fades in. I'm also very much not going to put white paint on this because I think that'll make it harder to tip in. I don't want to give them any trouble getting these pieces in. If like I have a feeling any sort of extra weight on this paper might mess up the printing process. Well, I think it was automated. I think that was YouTube's automation. So their bots are looking for boobs. So I'm just not going to take that chance again. That's. I mean, heck, I hate to get deplatformed just because I've been on so many other platforms that used to allow it. I mean, it used to be completely fair game on Instagram, and then Facebook bought it, and it's been all downhill since then. Which is weird, though, as I understand it, Twitter is still free for all the porn you want. You just can't talk about anything that's true in the world. All right, that's 8. That brings us to 8:25. All right, so not sure what I'm doing next week. Might work on one of the witch pages. I got pages laid up. I haven't might be a good idea for me to actually transfer the layout into pencils and then light box it or print it onto a nice sheet of Bristol and actually ink that page and actually get some of that work done. So I might do that next week. It'd still be Coven related stuff. Update, social platforms I'm on. If you don't follow me on Instagram, I'm on Blue Sky, and I'm on Facebook, although Facebook is more of like just me being me. If you want original art, I have my Big Cartel store. I made a MailChimp, and I haven't launched it yet, but I'm considering what I might do is make it every Monday. I send out a MailChimp notice like this is what's going up on the store. This is what's on the store currently. This is what's going up at to replace it on Friday. Remind them about the Sunday night stream. And just links all the stuff I'm involved with and announcement books. Basically, just a once a week email to make it seem like I'm more important than I really am. I'm on the fence about that. I don't want to intrude too much, but it's like I know for a fact that with what happened with Zoop, there's still people who are coming out wanting to support the Coven book and missed entirely on the campaign, even though I promoted it like hell leading up to it. Like I did a month of promotion up to it, and then the whole month of doing witches while the campaign was running, and people still missed out. So the idea is that, and the Zoop people are big proponents of a mailing list. The idea of a mailing list is it would deliver the information to the person to look at or ignore as they see fit. So I'm on the fence. I might do that, but it's like if you're already following me on Instagram, well, or you're showing up here every week, or you're a Patreon supporter, you're going to get that information anyway. So it's, to my mind, it's like, well, does that even serve a purpose? Like, what's the niche of people who like my work enough but don't follow me anywhere other than the email? So I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, so I want all of you to know I'm really grateful for your support and you're coming here, spending time with me on Sunday night. I hope you all have an amazing week ahead of you. And if you're interested, I'll be here next Sunday and drawing something. I'll probably post something when I make up my mind 100%. I'll probably post it by Thursday, the latest, for what I'm streaming about. And I'm going to be doing another 57 of these. You guys have a great night. Bye.